Hey guys, what is going on, my people? Welcome back to the Modern Leadership YouTube channel, where we like to see things a little differently. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Every once in a while, I get the privilege of being invited to a podcast called the Organized Chaos Podcast. And today is going to be that. So we wanted to do a live recording for you here because we have a really powerful topic that's talking about your why related to your business. So many times people have questions about like, well, is it related to my personal why? Like, is it just my business why? Like, how do I find that? Like, where does mission and vision and all these kind of things all fit into play? And we really wanted to tackle this during a podcast, but we also wanted to make sure that we share it here with our modern leaders, because you guys are super powerful leaders who are out there making an impact in the world. And when you can understand your why, like Simon Sinek has taught us, like start with why, you can like really find your passion, your heart voice, like what to lean into to really be able to go out there and be the type of leader that you want to be. So we're going to jump into a live version of Teresa's podcast, and then we're going to go from there. All right. And of course, if you have comments, anything you have along the way, definitely leave them here. We probably won't be picking them up while we're doing the live stream, but as we go, we want to give you all of this value a little bit early, and you will probably hear this podcast very soon on the Organized Chaos podcast. Okay. All right. That being said, Teresa, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
All right, welcome everyone to Organized Chaos. So today I have the most special guest. I always have different guests, but this one is truly special. This is my husband, Marc Hildebrand. Hello, welcome to the podcast.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me back.
But wait, are you really excited to be here?
I am really excited to be here. I'm serious.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about our why and how our whys can align with our goals and our mission and our business and all of that good stuff. And we always hear about, well, it starts with why, right? Or it almost seems like a buzzword when we say our why. But we really want to go deep into this and like how you can truly identify your why and how you can actually align that with your business goals and the things you're actually doing and your values and all of that, so that things just feel authentic and it feels like you are moving towards something that you really want. Right. So I'm glad that Marc is here today because he always has a great perspective on this, and we can share examples and even talk about, you know, our why and our story basically of how we aligned our mission and our why with our business goals and, you know, creating the lifestyle that we have today. So before we actually jump into it, I do want you to talk a little bit about yourself, Marc, so that the listeners of Organized Chaos can get a refresh of who you are, what you do, and all of that good stuff. And also like what's happened since we last had you on the podcast.
I mean, there's been so much. Hi, guys. My name is Marc Hildebrand. I am a former police sergeant from LAPD, and I am a life and legacy coach for entrepreneurs. I have a leadership channel on YouTube, which we also happen to be live streaming right now. Teresa's on the show every single week. By the way, if you are not subscribed to Modern Leadership on YouTube, I'm going to give my shameless plug here in the beginning. Definitely subscribe, because this woman has a ton of great knowledge and information that she shares on the show. So basically what we did is we took the process of working full-time, Teresa is in her corporate world and me working as a police sergeant, and I felt like, well, it's not that I didn't understand my why. It's just that I really didn't have alignment of my priorities. And I was putting so much time and energy and effort into my police career that my health was suffering. My relationship with Teresa and the kids were suffering. And I wanted like a way out. And what I found is through the process of coaching, through the power of like understanding our head versus our heart and leaning into our why to really pull out the reasons why we're doing things, not only did it keep me motivated and excited for long enough to create success, but that other people were coming behind me wanting to know what it is that I was doing. So I ended up writing this book. It's called Mastering Your Life Through Self-Coaching, because the process of coaching not only yourself, but coaching other people is so powerful, because we really like, when it comes to your heart, we really can help people lean into their why. I heard a podcast the other day and talk about the root of the word motivation. The root of the word motivation is like motive. What is your motive? What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? So many times people think motivation comes from the outside. Motivation is an intrinsic thing. If you want it to be long-term and sustainable, you have to find and tap into this place called your heart and stay out of this place called your head, because this head is like literally there to keep you safe. And when you can lean into your heart and you have that motive, you know exactly why you're doing this, why you're leaning into your business, why this is going to make an impact for you and the world, it keeps you motivated for the long term so that you can create the impact that you want to make. And that's what I do. That's what I do on the YouTube channel. That's what I do in all of our paid courses and the one-on-one programs that I have. Everything that I do is constantly like reevaluating and helping people not only find and discover their why, but also discover it even more, because as you understand it, it kind of like blossoms and it becomes this thing where when you're focused on putting your time and energy into that, you will create all of these great things on the outside that you will make a huge impact in the world. But it's during those hard times, when it's tough, when you have to lean in, when you have to do those difficult things, that really focusing on your why will give you that inspiration that you need to show up. So that's a little bit about me. Sorry, I think I talked a little bit too long.
No. I think that you really kind of said something there at the end that is a great segue into what we're actually going to talk about right now. And that is, when it's hard, like, what do you tap into, right? Because it's not, you say this all the time, it's not the easy times when we grow and we make great things and we make changes. It's the hard times. That's what determines the people who are really in it for the long haul. It's when things are hard and they push through and they, keep focus and have clarity and keep basically going towards their goals rather than away from their goals, and then they kind of just like they give up, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about how you can actually identify your passion, your why, all of that. Like, you talked about motivation, and you can also call it inspiration, right? That's like something that comes from within, because trying to like look at the outside and what's going on and whether this happens, I'll keep going or whatever, like that's not going to get you anywhere, right? It's all about what happens on the inside and looking inward and how you can actually find that inspiration within so that you can align your actions and all of that with what you truly want. So how do you think people can identify their passion, their why, and maybe give an example of how, you talked about it a little bit, like how you found your why and that thing that really kept you going?
Okay. So for me personally, it has a lot to do with like my values, sort of similar to what people call their priorities, but like, it was just the fact of living my life and seeing when I was pulled in this direction of like, this is like what I felt like I was compelled and put here to do, versus this other stuff, which was kind of like getting in the way and like pulling me off of that course. I talk a lot about, and I teach this inside of all our programs, is like this idea of like identifying your core values of like what's near and dear to you and to your heart. And what I feel like is when you identify what your core values are, what makes you tick, that's where you get to lean into like what your why is, like what your purpose is. And it's not something that I can just ask you one question and then immediately it'll pop in. It's this exploration process for me. So back when I was talking about like going all in with my police career, one of the things that when I figure out my core values, one of them was impact, making the biggest impact that I possibly could. And the police career was doing that. But what I was doing is I was giving all of my intensity into the impact. But I had a couple other core values that I didn't know were kind of hidden. Number one was family. Number two was health. And number three is integrity. So those are my 4 core values. When I identify those, I can figure out like what makes me tick. For me, when it comes to my personal why, it's always my family first. Like I always think about what kind of impact is this going to make on my family? And it's so powerful because when you understand your why, you can get through any of the problems that come up that ask you like, how are you going to do that, Mark? Like what? It helps frame it. I almost said reorganize. That's your thing. It helps me reframe it so that I can actually step into like the best version of me who's in alignment with my core values. So what I realized is when I wanted to make a huge impact, I wanted to live with integrity. I wanted to like really focus on my health and have like make my family be like a priority around all of that. It helped me make a decision on all the time on like, well, should I do this or should I do that? Should I continue to work as a police officer or should I do this? And for me, like it was the exploration of that, of realizing that my family is my real deep reason why I'm doing this. I want to make an impact in the world. Okay. I really, truly do. But nothing comes in front of my family. All right. If I had to pick between everybody who's watching this, I love you guys so much, and my family, I'm sorry, but I hope you would feel okay with this. But my family comes number one, right? And so for me, it was the exploration of that, spending too much time outside of that and messing it up to realize, hey, this is really, truly what I was put here on this planet to do. Now, one of the things that we do is in the coaching process, we ask some questions to help identify that. We can't ask anybody a million questions here, but Teresa, we just got off of a coaching call where Teresa was asking some of this coach, like, what was the purpose behind why she even started her business? So here's the thing. If you're a business owner, you already have a business, I want you to really think about that question, because there's a lot of like your why that is actually hidden in there, right? Yeah, it might be to make money. Yeah, it might be but like when you think about it, like, why did you even create this? What kind of impact is this making in the world? What do you see this making possible that wasn't possible before you created your business? When you start asking yourself that question, you can start getting into not only your core values, but your deeper why. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really about identifying your North Star and what's
Yeah.
gonna keep you going, right? Because there are, sometimes that could be superficial things. And this isn't to say that like, hey, I started my business because I wanted to make money. That's fine, right?
Yep.
There's an underlying reason why you're making money. It's not just always, hey, I just want to make money. You want to make money because you want more freedom. You want to make money because you want to get out of debt, because you really want to provide a awesome lifestyle for your family. So there's always kind of like this underlying thing. So don't feel shame because you're like, hey, I just started this because I wanted to make some money. That's fine. Like everybody has, we're not trying to put our why and our passions onto you. What we're trying to do is help you identify your passions, your purpose, your North Star, and it's all fine. Like we have nothing to do with that. It's just about helping you identify that, right?
That is so critical. Like as you hear us talk, you're going to hear us lead with our values and what we think is like what our why is in our life. It doesn't mean that you have to have the same message as us. Remember that your vibe will attract your tribe. So when you lead, especially if you have a business, with your values, you will attract people who are very similar to you and your values, but also you'll like repel people who aren't. And so it's really about you finding your why, not necessarily somebody else's. Now, sometimes you will find that they have very similar values to you, and it's because that's natural. You will be attracted normally to people who share similar values. And that's another great way to identify your why. Like when you think about the people in the world who are making like the impact that you want to make, the people you look up to, the people you consider powerful business leaders, who are those people and what are some of their values? Because a lot of times you can have some of the shared values as them, right? I don't want you to chase somebody else or somebody else get into somebody else's race. This is all like this individual piece, but like understand that there isn't one right, best, only way. If your goal was just to make money, that's cool. That's your why. If that fuels you and fires you up, I'm not going to tell you otherwise. I, as a coach, is just going to ask you questions to help you identify yours. And it could be anything. There's not a one right, best, only why. And there's definitely not like, oh, you have to have a why between this and this. That's not the case at all. It's just through the exploration and asking of questions that we can help people identify that. So really, really solid point.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to make sure we, really said that, because we don't want to implant any type of beliefs or any type of values on other people. We just want to help you identify yours, because this is going to go along to our next segment here. And this is about, clarifying your business goals so that they do align with your why, right? Because you want to be able to work towards that. And what is going to get you towards that are the daily actions that you take, are the things that you do, and the habits that you have. That is all going to eventually manifest whatever it is that you want. And you want to be clear on that. You want to make sure that you're not going on some other path, right, that doesn't align with your values, doesn't align with your why, because nobody wants to do that, right? So we want to make sure we can clarify that. So, in your opinion, Mark, like what are some of the ways where people can basically find that intersection between someone's why and their goals?
Okay, great question. I'm going to keep this one super simple because otherwise it's going to be a like 90-minute episode. And that is like asking yourself, how can you excel at both of them or at all of them? So one of the key things that helped me in my journey was I didn't realize that inside I had a limiting belief that said I can only excel in one area because I can only put as much time and energy into that one to be able to succeed. And what opened the door for me is like, how can I excel at both? So when I first got like into starting a business, right? I wanted to make impact, but I also wanted to have the time with my family. I also wanted to focus on my health. I started to ask myself questions based off of how can I excel at it all? And what it did is it placed a filter on me so that I know that should I spend, 20 hours on social media sending DMs, is that going to be in alignment with all my goals? The answer is no. But what about hiring a teammate? But what about doing something called YouTube? But what about putting out a podcast that could like get downloads when I'm sleeping? Like that was in alignment with like, hey, this is a way that I can make an impact. I can also even bring my family on because this beautiful one right here, I get to do a lot of podcasts and shows and coaching sessions with her on here. And so it brings us even closer together. But we do it in a way that we ask ourselves, like, how can I excel at both of them? And what it does is it opens your mind to the possibilities. You don't need to have the answer right now. All you have to do is implant the belief in here is like, it's possible. There's ways of excelling in my business and my personal life if I'm willing to find it, and I'm willing to find it. So I'm just going to plant the seed of like, pay attention. And if something presents itself, put it through this filter. And when you have that filter, you will find your answers, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I promise you'll find those answers because you're open to finding them when they show up. They would have come up anyway, but you would have dismissed them because you had a closed box that you were in saying that I can only excel in one or the other, which is what I had for decades. And I promise you, it's very hard to get out of there if you have that closed mindset. So just being open to asking yourself, how can I excel at both? You'll start to have really great examples come up.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great a great perspective to have on that. Now let's talk about some challenges. Okay, so I think this is where this pops up the most is when times are hard, right? Mm-hmm. Because we normally don't think about like our purpose and our mission and everything when things are like going great. Normally it's like, why am I doing this? Because this is really hard. Mm-hmm. Like it's the challenging times when we really have to go in and think about why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Right? Like why am I even putting in this effort to do this? Mm-hmm. And I think that this is where people will get into a cycle of just thinking about the things that they need to do. Like there are certain actions that they need to take. They just need to do more of this, or they just need to keep going, then never give up and stuff, right? Like that. But what would you say? And is this like the most important time to kind of really think about and identify your why when times are tough?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good hack for you going from your head into your heart voice. So let me quickly explain this, all right? Because a lot of times we don't realize that this is happening, but it's in those challenging moments that our brain kind of like focuses what's broken, wrong, or missing to get us into not taking the actions that we are wanted to take that's in alignment with our goals. But it's also the greatest opportunity you have to prove to the world that you're serious about what you're doing. You see, both of those are two different mindsets. One's like, this thing happened. Like this is evidence that I can't succeed. Like, oh, woe is me. Like there's some problems that are going on. And we start to think like, maybe we're the only people going through this. Maybe like this is the thing that we're struggling with and nobody else is struggling with. And it makes us feel alone. And when we start to feel alone, we take different actions. And some of those actions are, like you were saying, like unaligned actions. Like maybe you're doing stuff in your business, but you're hating it. You're not even enjoying it anymore. You're like, why am I doing this? It's a waste of time. This is just and that energy flows through everything, right? This is what we term in the Push Coach Certification School as our head voice. It's naturally supposed to keep us safe. It serves us because it convinces us not to do the things that are uncomfortable. It convinces us not to get on stage, not to do a YouTube video, not to do a podcast, not to reach out and start a conversation with a stranger because you could change their life, but also they might think about you a little differently, right? Or you're making a post and you're like, what are my family going to think about this? It's very easy because that's what your head is designed to do. It's designed to keep you safe. But in our environment now, like whether or not you post up a message and your mom doesn't like your Facebook message is not going to, have a long-term impairment on your your life, right? Even though back in the day, it would, because we don't want to be thrown out of our tribe. We won't be able to survive. And so our brain is kind of like trying to find all of the answers out there to convince us not to do anything new and just to keep doing what we've always done, which is not going to get us to anywhere we've ever been before, right? Because in order for us to do something or for it to be somewhere different, to get somewhere different, to develop differently, we have to do something different, right? And so that's our brain's constant way of throwing us off. Now, what we do is we teach the push method, which is a systematized way. It's a structure to see what your brain is doing so that you can flip it to your heart voice. There's another place that speaks, and that's your heart, all right? So your head is like there to keep you alive, to keep you safe. Like they say 95% of all your thoughts are unconscious. You don't even realize what's going on, right? And all of them are to keep you safe. Hey, don't do that. Like, what are you going to do if like you make a mistake? What if you go out on stage and your fly's down? Like all of these things, right? And now all of our time and attention is focused on, oh my God, I'm going to make a mistake. And guess what? You're going to make a mistake. It's just the way that it is, right? But instead, we have this different place called our heart. And this is where like purpose and potential and love and hope comes from. It's that place when your kid's like, you know what? Like, Dad, when I get older, I want to be a police officer. And it's the place where you're like, you're going to be able to crush it. I can't wait for you to be able to succeed with that. I'm going to help you every step of the way. I can't wait to see you on the stage, right? And that's your heart because you're like, there is so much potential and purpose and hope. And I know that this human's going to be able to like really rock it, right? But if we think about ourselves, like me being a police officer or being a fireman, I'm like, well, I'm too old. Like, how am I going to be able to do that? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, that's not something I learned. Like, I haven't gone to school for that. And so our head voice will kind of keep us trapped. And so when we help people, and this is where it comes full circle, when we help people lean into their why, it's asking them questions from their heart. It kind of forces them to go down and deep and to find the answers for their heart. Because if you're not good at managing this, it's going to be super loud. The volume is like on 99 and this volume's on 1. But as a coach, when I tap into your why, I turn this one so loud that this one gets drowned out. Because I ask you, what about this is important or meaningful to you? Like, what kind of impact is this going to make in your life? Why are you doing this? What is going to happen as a result of you staying true to this? What kind of impact is that going to make on your family? And now we start getting into like these absolutes, like it's because there's people who are suffering and struggling right now that I have the answer to their problems, and I'm going to be out there telling them about this, whether or not they're ready to do this right now or not. I just want them to know that there's hope that it's possible for them. And when you lead with that, your energy totally shifts. It totally gets into this serving-based energy where you're literally going to, like our mentor, Josh Coates says, the fire turns on in your eyeballs. And people are like, I don't know what he's doing, but I want to do whatever it is, right? Hopefully it's just like some Energize or something like that. But still, it's like, I don't know what's up with this energy, but this is the kind of thing that I want in my life, right? And when you do that, you will naturally attract people in your business. But it's all because you really focus on your why. Because when you focus on your why, it'll create a feeling in your body. When you have a feeling in your body of excitement, of like hope, of love, of joy, it will have you taking actions that are in alignment with that. And when you take those actions, you'll actually manifest or create what your thought was initially. This is the power of our thoughts. And when we can go there, we can lean into our why. And I'm sure you've had this where you've just felt so compelled to like lean into your why. Like even the small things or even a big thing that comes up, it's like no problem. It's when we don't focus on that the smallest thing can make us explode, make us get angry, make us get frustrated. And we do that because we're not focusing on our why, the purpose and the reason behind what it is that we're doing. And I do want to share one little story because this is an example of when things came up, they got a little bit challenging, but also from the last one is like, how can I excel at both? So I wanted to do a program called the 75 Hard. I actually did a video on sort of our YouTube channel that just released today, but it talks about this program called 75 Hard. It is a very intense physical and mental, it's
challenge.
Fitness, but it's also like a mental toughness based program. And what it is you have to drink 1 gallon of water a day. You have to have 2 45-minute workouts a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And the afternoon one, or one of them has to be outside in the elements, in the weather. It doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, or whatever, right? You have to follow a meal plan exactly. No cheats, no alcohol, nothing like that. You have to read 10 pages of a personal development book every single day, and you have to take a photograph of yourself every single day. Anyway, I was working full-time as a police sergeant. I have a life coach school that I've co-created with my mentor. I have one-on-ones. I have like group programs. I'm married. I've got 2 small kids. I'm like trying to juggle all this. I'm like, how am I going to do 2 45-minute workouts a day? This is one of those things where you get kind of challenged because now you've decided for 75 days in a row, I'm going to do this. And I started to think about, how is this possible? Like I have too much stuff going on. And that, just like everybody else, I have a head voice, and it kind of steered me in the direction of like, just don't commit to this. Like, just take it easy. It's okay. Like you'll survive if you don't do this. But then I had this different place, and this place was like figuring out my why. Like, how can I lean into my why and at the same time excel at this and excel when it comes to my business and when it comes to my family? And so I decided to ask myself, how can I actually excel at all of them? And so what I did is, number one, is I put together a group. It was a free group on social media to do the 75 hard to attract my right clients to me. Number two is I decided that I was going to do 75 hard and incorporate my kids with it. Meaning the second workout that was 45 minutes, I was going to take one day Andrew, the next day Alyssa, and the next day Teresa, and then the next day Andrew, and the next day Alyssa. And so every day I would have 45 minutes walk outside with my family so that I can connect with them even more. And what I didn't realize is this mental toughness that I built actually moved into my business, helped us 4 times our business revenue that year because of the mental toughness that I had built around my physical health and then also my business. And then also when it comes to like really connecting with my family, and that it would never have been possible if I hadn't been open to it. But then also I hadn't made sure that it actually connected my whys, my health, my impact, my integrity, and my family. And it was only possible because I planted the seed of like, hey, this is possible. I just didn't have the answer then, but it showed itself. And it showed itself in the time when I was kind of struggling with whether or not I should do that. And instead, it was a thing that I leaned into, helped me develop mental toughness, and helped me lean into my why.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm so glad that, and we'll wrap this up really quick, but I am so glad that you kind of talked about obviously like the push method and how that thought process works, because when we're just talking about, oh, well, think about your why or identify your why and have it aligned with your goals, it's like you don't know all the little intricacies of what happens when you are thinking about your why. Well, it generates a feeling, and when that you're feeling a certain way, that's going to take, you're going to take the actions that align with that feeling. And there's this whole process that happens that we don't even realize it. And that is truly what moves you forward. It's not just you thinking about something. It's not just you, oh, I'm just going to think positive and I'm going to think about my why all the time and I'm going to write it down and it's just going to magically appear, right? It's not like a destination. It's just something that you do habitually, and like that is what truly gets you to move forward. So there's always that process that happens. And I love the example of 75 hard. And I know that your video on the YouTube channel is like, how do you use it for your business? So, you know, if you guys want to check that out, please go to Modern Leadership channel and check out that video because I think it's really amazing. And, you know, like that program or that challenge is not for everyone, right? Like I didn't do it. I was not attracted to that. I didn't want to be a part of that. But I did see how it really helped Marc. And like he said, he was able to incorporate us into that. So he was not only focused on one thing, like he's like, how am I going to make all of this work? Right. And that is what helps us really open our minds. You know, it helps us keep an open mind to the possibilities and the opportunities. This is about opportunity, right? Like, how can I have this why and align it with my goals, and how can I make this part of my life and have it affect my life in a positive way in all areas of my life, right? So I want to know if you have any closing thoughts, Marc, but I think we'll wrap this up, and I hope that was helpful for everyone.
I do. You know, whenever you ask me that, I do. No, I just kind of wanted to share. So obviously this is going to be on the Organized Chaos podcast with Teresa. But I just really want to talk about like the impact that the people that you surround yourself with will have on you leaning into your why. Okay. So Teresa and I did a workshop that talked about the 5 people that are in your support system that are like there to cheer you on, and some people who sneak in there that shouldn't be in there in the first place. when you find something, someone, a team, a book, a podcast, right? And at the end of that podcast, you feel on fire. You feel like I'm going to go out and I'm going to crush it. I know my why. I'm like really diving into this. That's the kind of stuff that you want to continually like surround yourself with, because what they say is like good input in, or good input out, right? But bad input in equals bad input out. And so there is one hack to this, and that is like to make sure that you're in an environment that not only stretches you, but it has people that are like really going for their why, for their vision. Not that you have to align with theirs, but just because when you are around people who are getting after it, it's so much easier for you to get out after it too. It's contagious, guys. Stories and feelings and actions, it is all contagious. And when you understand that and you realize that you can put yourself in an environment to get you to take more action, to get you to have those thoughts that will actually serve you and your why, it's so powerful because you get to hack the system. It's very easy to try and convince ourselves that we can do this by ourselves. Even I literally have a book that talks about mastering your life through self-coaching. I still can't coach myself through anything. That's why I have a coach. That's why I lean into podcasts. That's why I lean into our book club, all the different things we're doing, because I know that it elevates me to make sure that I'm in the right room. And the last piece is like, if you feel like you're in the right room, you're probably not in the right room. The room should stretch you. It should feel like, I don't know if I should even be here. Like, I don't even know if I'm on the same level as them. That is evidence that you're in the exact room you should be. So just lean in. I appreciate you for doing the uncomfortable things of being a leader, being like somebody who's being able to organize all this chaos that we have going on. The world would look completely different without you in it. We appreciate you so much for all the work that you're doing out there, all the hard things, all the uncomfortable things, and just being a part of this environment, being a part of whether it's our YouTube channel or our Organized Chaos podcast or anything that we have going on. We appreciate you because we know your time and energy is super valuable. We hope you got a lot out of today. And thank you very much for having me on the show again.
Thank you for coming on. That was awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And, if you think it can help somebody else, please share this episode. Go on to Marc's YouTube channel if you want to learn more about leadership as well. But I hope that you guys got a lot out of this and it was helpful, and keep at it. So thanks for listening and have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.